Welcome back to part two of our Lewis Carroll episode, and we are going to just go on and jump right into it, forget the introduction and everything. Okay. But to promote letter writing, he would invented the Wonderland postage stamp case in 1889. And this was a cloth-backed folder of 12 slots and two marked with inserting the most commonly used penny stamp, in which one each for the denominations up to a shilling. The folder was then put into a slipcase decorated with a picture of Alice on the front and a Chasmere cat on the back. It is intended to organize stamps wherever one was stored. And their writing implements, Carroll expressly notes that in 8 or 9 wise words about letter writing, it was not intended to be carried in a pocket or purse, as the most common individual stamps could easily be carried on to pause. Now, another invention that he was a writing tablet called the nitograph, which was allowed note taking in the dark, and it was eliminating the need to get out of bed and strike when one was woke with the idea. And this device consisted of the griddle card with 16 square and system of symbols representing the alphabet of Dodgton's design. Now, use design. Now, he also devised a number of games, including the earliest version of what we know as Scrabble. And that was devised sometime in 1878. Um, and he invented the C word ladder. And it is a form of the brain to use it that is still popular today. Changing word into another word by altering one letter at a time. For instance, cat transformed into dog by the following cat, dog. It's actually pretty clever if you stop and think about it. He was also the subject of Martin Gardner's Merch 1960 mathematical games column in Scientific American. And other items that would be rule for finding the day of the week and a means of justifying the right margins of a typewriter as well. A steering device for Velociman was a type of tricycle, fair eliminations from tennis tournaments as well, a new sort of postal money order, rules for reckoning postage, and everything. He also proposed several alternative systems of parliamentary representation. He proposed a so-called Dodgson's method, using the Consador method. In 1884, he proposed a proportional representation system based on multi-member districts, each voter casting only a single vote quotas as minimum requirement to take seat, and votes transferable by candidates through what is now called liquid democracy. Now let's talk about his mathematical work. And let's keep in mind, it's easy to remember he is a very known children's author. But sometimes we forget that he was a mathematician, a really good mathematician, gifted kid. Um, and within the academic discipline of mathematics, he worked primarily in the fields of geometry, linear and math, and the matrix algebra, mathematical logics, and recreation mathematics. He produced nearly a dozen books under his real name. He also developed new linear ideas in linear algebra. Um, and probably in the most study of elections too. Um, his occupation as a mathematical lecturer did give him financial security. Now, what about his mathematical logic? Well, his works in the field of mathematical logic attracted renewed interest in the late 20th century. Martin Gardner's book on the logic machines and diagrams, and Warren Bartley's posthumous publication the second part of his book, Symbolic Logic book, has sparked a reevaluation to his contributions to symbolic logic. It is recognized that the symbolic logic part 2 was introduced in the method of trees in the earliest modern of the truth tree. Algebra Thank you, Carl. Thank you for having me learn algebra for no reason at all. But it was a method of evaluating determinants which led to alternating signs in the matrix of the conjecture, which is now a theorem. There was also recreational mathematics, which was discovered in the 90s as an additional cipher that has been constructed in addition to the memorial of Technitia, which is shown. Now let's talk about his correspondence. He wrote and received many, over close to 10,000. And this was according to a special letter register he devised, and he documented his advice on how to write more satisfying letters in a missive entitled 8 or 9 Wise Words. Now, let's talk about his later life now. His existence remained little changed over last 20 years of his life. Despite his growing wealth and fame, he continued to teach at Church Christ until 1881. It remained in residence there until his death. Public appearance included attending the West End musical Alice in Wonderland at the Prince of Wales Theatre on December 30th, 1886. The new volumes of his last novel, Sylvie and Bruno, were published in 1889 and 1893. But the intricacy of his work was apparently not appreciated by contemporary readers. It also achieved nothing like the success of Alice's books, which is disappointing reviews and sales of only 13,000 copies. Now, the only known occasion on which he traveled abroad was a trip to Russia in 1867. As an ecclesiastic together with the Reverend Henry Liddon, he also recounts his travels in a Russian journal, which was commercially publicized in 1935 on his way to Russia and back. He also saw different cities in Belgium, Germany, partitioned Poland, and France. In his early 60s, he was increasingly suffer from synovitis, which would eventually prevent him from walking and sometimes leaving him bedridden for months. Now, he would die of pneumonia following the flu on January 14, 1898, at his sister's home, just 4 days before the death of Henry Little. He was 2 weeks away from turning 66, and his funeral was held nearby at St. Mary's Church. His body was buried at Mount Cemetery in Guildford. He is also commemorated at All Saints Church in Daresbury, and has a stained glass window depicting his characters in Alice in Wonderland, which was erected in 1935. Now, there are some controversies and mysteries, and I'm pretty sure you know what I'm talking about because we can't talk about Lewis Carroll without talking about this controversy and mystery. So, there was a BBC documentary that came out in 2015 called The Secret World of Lewis Carroll, and it critically examined his relationship with Alice and her sisters, and explored the possibility that Dodgson rift with the Liddell family might have been caused by a relationship with their children, including Alice. Now, the research in this documentary has found a quote, disturbing, unquote, full frontal nude of Alice's adolescent sister, Lorena, during filming, and speculated the likelihood that Dodgson takes in the photos. However, it was later revealed in the timeline of the research that there was more than meets the eye. The photo currently exists in the archives in the Musée Capnini in Marseille and was attributed to him by an unknown hand, and it was subsequently revealed in early 2015 by Carroll scholar Edward Wakeling that the photo first appeared in the 70s, which it was owned by Parisian photo collectors. Now, the providence the provenance of the photos linked to him could be questioned. It was left to Musée de Catania, and there was no link to Carroll and no link to the Liddell family. And this was not explained in the documentary. And the documentary raised suspicions of him being a repressed pedophile, as one of the interviewees. The aspect itself was leaked to the Telegraph a week in advance. And when reviewing the documentary, papers sought the 19th century with 21st century sexual conduct revelations about the recent pedophiles. Now, This attempt could be linked to be considered an act of a scapegoat that was inspired by the media's reaction to the UK early U-Tree investigations. When problems about the documentary conduct research surfaced, now the material of the documentary has come under intense scrutiny by scholars, and including such as Jeannie Wolf and Edward Reichling. And Wolf claimed that she was not told to use the alleged photo until editing in the documentary is underway. Now, the photo negative is still missing in the catalog. A number of these meticulous photos keep getting there. Now, what about the speculations and conduct? Well, late 20th century, autobiographers speculated that his interest in children might have been, quote, erotic, unquote. Yeah. Now, Cohan goes on to note that Dodson apparently convinced many of his friends that his attachment to nude female child porn was free of eroticism, but adds that later generations beneath the surface, he argues that he may have wanted to marry the 11-year-old. I don't know how true this is or not, because you gotta remember about the research at this time. Now, he has been groomed and ordained in this ministry as the Church of England from a very early age, and he was expected to be ordained within 4 years, attaining a master's degree in condition residency as residency at Church of Christ. He delayed the process for some time, and he was eventually ordained as a deacon December 22nd, 1861. And when the time came a year later to be ordained as a priest, he appealed to the dean for permission not to proceed. This was against college rules, and initially he was told him that he would have to consult with the college ruling body, which which would almost certainly result in him being expelled. For unknown reasons, he changed his mind overnight and permitted him to remain in the college in defiance. There are currently no conclusive evidence about him being rejected from the priesthood. Now, he does have some missing diaries. There are at least 4 complete volumes and 7 pages of text missing from his 13 diaries. There are many theories that have been put forward to explain the missing material. Popular one is one missing page that might have been turned out to conceal a proposal of marriage on the day by Dodson to 11-year-old Alice Little as well. Now, he does leave a legacy, like all. I mean, I wouldn't expect him not to leave a legacy. There are societies in many parts of the world dedicated to enjoyment and promotion of his works. In 1982, his great-nephew unveiled a memorial stone to him in the Poets' Corner. And as Carroll was born in All Saints Vicarage, he is commemorated there as well. That is it for this episode. I will see y'all next time. Y'all have a great day.